Hello, hello. Hey, 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 everybody. Hello, everybody. Again, I always feel like the live is the news because of my papers. I'm always like, and this is Thursday because I normally come at you live on Wednesday, but I'm here on Thursday. Why wasn't I here yesterday? Oh, I'm in a mastermind group and I had a session. So we had a final session for our round that we're in. And so that's why I wasn't here yesterday. But I'm usually here Wednesdays at 5, but I'm here today Thursday, and I'm excited to talk to all of you. So when you're here, say hello, let me know that you're here, because we're talking about everybody's favorite topic, right? We're talking about boundaries in your business. Who doesn't like talking about boundaries, right? So this has come up a lot in the past. It always comes up after summer. They're just, it's always a thing. Okay, this topic, boundaries, if this is a problem for you, setting boundaries, honoring boundaries, let me know. Like, say hi, let me know in the comments, tell me what boundaries you have trouble around. I would love to know. But this is always, Selena, hello, I was about to email you today, girl. I'm not kidding. Hi, Leah. Hi. So I'm just curious what boundaries you struggle with. So as you're kind of like listening and joining, just type in, is it a time boundary? Do you have trouble sticking to your pricing in your business, whether it's personal or it's business? Like, what are some boundaries that you just have trouble with, right? Like trouble navigating, trouble enforcing, trouble, setting. Like, what do you have? I know you guys have trouble with boundaries. In fact, so I'm going to tell you a story. So, okay, so this is always a thing for my clients and potential clients, right? But it seems to be more of a thing after the summer and after like when school picks up, and then all the way through the holiday season, right? Like it just kind of gets worse. I'll hear people say things like, Rita, I want to work with you, but I just don't have the time. I want to grow my business, but I just don't have the time to grow my business, right? I don't have the time to work with you because I'm so busy not growing my business, right? Like, but do you see what I'm saying? I get it. Like, I started this week off when we were talking about boundaries. I started this week off saying, a lot of people come to me saying, Rita, I want to do all of these things I hear you say do, but I don't have time because I'm so full of already doing things, right? And so this is a topic, boundaries, that come up this time of year, time and time again. But on like a peek behind the curtain kind of thing, the reason I'm talking about this week is because I'm rewriting my boundaries this week, because I have been struggling with enforcing some of my boundaries, or rather it was that I haven't revised my boundaries in a while. And so what I found, and I don't know how many of you have ever been here before, so if you can tell me you've been here before so I don't feel alone, that would be awesome. But like all of a sudden people are always like, Rita, your schedule's so great, because people who know me and have worked with me before know I have very strict schedules. All of a sudden lately, I feel like I'm working around the clock. I don't know how many of you fall into patterns like that. And sometimes I choose to. Sometimes there's a big thing that I'm creating, or there's a big thing I want to do, or just a lot of stuff lines up at once, and it's a conscious choice to deep dive and to work longer than I normally do. But that's not what's been happening lately. Lately, I'm not getting up from my computer. In fact, here's the thing. I went to go meet a client for a full day intensive just Tuesday. I went to go meet her for a full day intensive. And I was like, I haven't left my house for a week. And I didn't notice that I hadn't left my house until I went to go leave my house that day. And I was like, where's my car? Where's my car? And my husband was like, before you went on that trip to Atlanta, you moved the car. Remember, you moved it, you parked it over there. And I was like, I haven't been outside of the house since I got back from Atlanta. And he was like, no. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I went on my deck, right? But how many of you get overwhelmed at times in your business, and all of a sudden it just feels like you're working all of the time? Because that's what happened to me recently. And so I was sitting there and I was thinking, what's going on? I have a really good handle. I've got guidelines in my business. I have rules. I have boundaries. I have containers. I had started flexing on those a little bit. And then in addition, I didn't like my business has grown since the last time I wrote those guidelines and those rules and those boundaries and those, my life has changed and my business has changed, but my rules and my guidelines and my boundaries have not. And so what I found was that I was back in this cycle without even realizing it, of like working all of the time. And it's because I needed new rules, I needed new guidelines, I needed new things to navigate new situations. I was tired because I wasn't well, I was flexing on my boundaries. It's not great, right? I was flexing too much to the point where they weren't really boundaries. But then in addition, because I didn't have new rules, I didn't have updated. It wasn't like Rita 4.0, right? I didn't have like the Rita Pro Max Plus or whatever. I didn't have new updated rules and guidelines and containers. We're going to talk about what those are all about. In my business, I was making a lot of decisions, right? I was having to think about a lot of things. So how many of you feel like that? Like, there, not only are there a lot of things going on, but there are a lot of things that go on in your business right now, and you're having to make a lot of decisions on that, and it feels a little taxing. So like, I was making decisions around speaking engagements. Should I go speak here? Should I go speak there? I was making decisions about, should I apply for this speaking engagement? I was making decisions around, should I post here? Should I post there? Should I do it on this day? Should I do it on that day? I was making decisions about like, is this like a person I want to extend an invite to get on a call with me? I was making decisions around, oh, do I move this client's time to this time or that time? I was making decisions around, do I go after this client who still owes me like $300, or do I just let it go, right? Like, is $300 enough for me to go after them, or is it like really not worth it and I'm just gonna let the 300 go? Like, how many of you right now are in some of these places? Because I really want to know, the more that you guys interact with me on today's video, the more information I'm going to give that can really help all of us, right? I'm like a collective part of this, but I do know what I'm doing. I've already kind of spent some time doing it, and I'm going to share it with you. Like, today's like a real peek behind the curtains around like Rita's boundaries and stuff. And so, but how many of you feel like you're just working a lot? It seems like you're just working all the time. Like, how many of you there? If that's you, say yes, or type 1, or say I'm working all the time, or something like that. And how many of you feel like you're making a lot of decisions every day in your business, or you're having to analyze or think about things a lot in your business because there's just a lot of decisions to make and a lot of things that you have to do? So if that's you, say yes, right? Like below. So are you overwhelmed? You guys are all being super quiet, and I know you're there. Are you all feeling like I'm working all the time and I don't have time to do things that I know I need to be doing in my business? Let's start there. How many of you feel like that? I'm working so much, I don't know when else I would fit in what it is that I really need to be doing in my business, Rita. Type 1 if that's you. Type 1 if you're thinking that at all right now, where it's like, I'm pretty full. Like, my days are full. So Rita, when I hear you say, oh, you should just do this, or oh, you should just do that, it's like, my days are full and I don't know when I'm going to add these things in, or I hear that you should go to this or go out networking, and I don't know when, because my days are full. If that's you, type 1, right? Overwhelmed. Hi, Billy. Yes, I feel like I'm working all the time, right? How many of you feel like there are just a lot of decisions to make every day? If that's you, type 2. If it's like do you find yourself over analyzing things? Do you find yourself like constantly debating if you should do something, whatever that is? Should I write this? Is this the topic that I should talk about? Is this all of the decisions? Should I go to this event? Should I apply to speak here? Should I get on the phone with this person? Should I donate a gift to this charity? Should I? Like, how many of you right now type 2 if that's you guys, right? So type 1 if you feel like, my time's full. I know there's more I need to be doing in my business. I don't know when. I know there are things I need to do to grow my business. Type 1, right? If you're like, I don't want to win because my schedule's pretty freaking full. And type 2, and you might type 1 and 2, right? And then type 2 if it's like, God, there's so many things I have to debate and analyze, and I spend a lot of time trying to decide, should I do this or should I do that? A lot of people just left. So maybe I'm asking questions that people don't want to talk about. A lot of people were just like, boom, I'm out. So I'm just gonna, there were a lot of people in the room and now there are not a lot of people in the room. So I'm just gonna keep like going and talking instead of doing what I normally do, which is waiting for answers. But if you are here, please answer because it'll help. And if you're watching on replay, please answer because this is a topic that I'm fleshing out into something else because I think it's really, really crucial and I think it's really important. Selena says, I operate my business part-time around my day job. It's a challenge to carve out time for business power moves, right? Yeah, and what, I guess my question would be, and you might not be able to answer it, like if you're on your phone, you're probably not gonna wanna type a lot now, but if you can, Selena, like, why do you find that difficult? Why is it difficult to carve out time for business power moves? Like what is specifically making that difficult? The more specific you can get, the better, right? But I get it because there's so many things that you can do, right? There's so many things that you can do to grow your business and you can do them in so many places, right? And you can do them in so many ways at so many times, right? And there's so many things to do. But when you're, so these clients who come to me and they're like, Rita, I need to grow my business. I'm not making the money that I want to make, right? I'm not making the revenue I want to make, and I'm not keeping that revenue consistent, Rita. I'm making some money, but not all the time, and I'm not keeping my money consistent. But Rita, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so stretched thin. Like I'm already doing so much. I don't know when I would do more, right? That's when I tell them, whoa, hold up. Like you have to pause. We have to hit the pause button because if you're feeling overwhelmed, but you're not generating the money that you want, so if you feel overwhelmed because of business and all of this stuff, right? But if you feel overwhelmed and stretched and your time seems to be scheduled full of stuff, but you're not making the revenue you want to make, you have to hit pause because you're doing too much, right? You have to admit you're doing too much. You actually need to do less, which I know seems counterintuitive whenever you're like, but Rita, I'm not making the money I want, right? I'm not making the money I want, and so I need to do more, Rita. You're not here. Like, I had one girl, it was so funny. She was on the phone. She's like, no, Rita, I don't think you heard me. I don't think you heard me this whole conversation. I was like, I heard you. She's like, but you just said I needed to do less, and I think you meant I should do more. I was like, when are you gonna do more? You just told me your schedule is like completely packed. When are you gonna do any more? She was like, well, I was hoping you would tell me. And I said, well, I'm telling you to do less. And so that's how we find some time to do other things. She was like, I don't get it. I don't understand it, right? So boundaries are crucial for success, right? And most of the time when we're not reaching our goals and we're not reaching our revenue and we're getting frustrated and we feel like we're not in front of the right audience and people don't want to buy what we want to buy and like all of this stuff is going on, chances are it's actually not related to any of that. It's your boundaries. It's your boundaries that are stopping people from buying from you. So we're going to talk a little bit about specific types of boundaries, right? We've got a time boundary, right? Honoring your time, setting and enforcing boundaries around your time. But we also have like guidelines and limitations and rules in different areas of our business. And I'm wondering, and I would love for you to tell me and be like really upfront, how many of you have clear guidelines and rules around different parts of your business? So what I mean is like you have rules around your sales process. You have guidelines and rules around your pricing. You have guidelines and rules for other things you do to grow your business. So like if you do vendor shows or if you're like me and you speak all the time, do you have like guidelines and rules like around the different stages of these processes, right? So like, let's look at the sales process. In my world, there's a build awareness container. There's like a nurture relationship container. There's a Facebook group container. There's a sales call container, and then there's a client container, right? Do you guys have clear rules and guidelines written in those for those areas? Do you have clear rules and guidelines on things that you need to make a decision on, right? Something that very clearly defines your decision before the thing you have to decide ever comes up, like yes or no, right? Tell me, and if you have some, tell me where. Do you have clear rules around your working hours? Do you have clear rules around how those times are spent? Do you have clear rules around and guidelines around what you're focusing on in your business? Like, around your pricing, around all of it? Do you guys, or do you feel like you have ideas, you have concepts of how you want this to be? You have a concept of how you want your day to be. You have a concept of what you want your pricing to be. You have a concept of, you know, how you want your interactions with people to be. You have a concept for like what you want to say yes to and what you want to say no to, but it hasn't actually really played out the way that you kind of thought it would play out, or it hasn't felt the way that you thought that it would feel. Yes or no? Yes or no? Let me know, guys. Again, the more specific you get with me today, the better for everybody, because we're actually going to like write some guidelines, right? Like it's almost like a little mini class today. We're having a little mini class. You're going to write some guidelines and some rules and some boundaries in your business so you can kind of take back time. How many of you feel like you just don't have white space or margin in your day, meaning you don't have time to actually be the CEO of your business? You don't have time to do long-term planning. You don't have time to just sit and be innovative and creative. So when I'm talking to people and I'm like, what do you do to create? What do you do to innovate? What do you do to, and they're like, well, I don't have time for that right now, right? Like, okay, Leah says the only thing I have really clear guidelines on is pricing. Okay, that's good. It's good to have guidelines around pricing, right? Do you find yourself holding firm to those guidelines? Because that's the next question, right? So either you don't have really clear guidelines and boundaries and limitations and all of these things, or you do, but you're being flexy on them, right? So let me know that too. And boundaries, guys, the definition of boundaries really is the way that people treat, or the way that you allow people to treat you. Okay, so boundaries are how people treat you, but really it's how you allow people to treat you. So there's actually a difference between standards and boundaries. Okay, standards are how you show up in the world. So I have standards, right, for how I want to live my life. So a standard is how I show up. Those are rules for me, how I want to show up in the world. So like I might say a standard for me is I honor people's time, right? I'm always punctual. I'm always on time. Like I honor people's time. That could be a standard, right? Maybe a standard is I don't yell at people unless you're my husband on like a bad night, right? Like, but like, do you see what I'm saying? Like maybe a standard is I don't yell at people, right? But a boundary is like how I let other people treat me. So a boundary may be I want people to be on time. I want people to honor my time. I want people to not yell at me. Do you guys see the difference between a standard and a boundary? Say yes or no. Like standard and a boundary, yes, no? Jessica says, I need guidelines in place with my time, and I've recently made brand new pricing guidelines, and I'm better with my client boundaries are a whole thing we're going to talk about here, right? I'm better with my client boundaries, but I need to get even better. Leah's like, I don't have flexibility when it comes to pricing, because if I allowed myself to do that, I wouldn't make any money. Okay, cool. So like you're very firm on your pricing guidelines. That's cool. Where do you feel like maybe you need some guidelines, Leah, since you said pricing are really the only boundaries and guidelines you have? And I just want to make sure, again, you guys understand the difference between standards and boundaries, right? So standards are how you show up in the world. Boundaries are how you want other people to treat you. But here's the thing. Here's why I bring that up. You cannot have a boundary that isn't also a standard. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that again. This came up in dating all the time when I was a date coach. You can't have a boundary that isn't also a standard. Meaning, what do I mean? So I can't say I want other people to respect my time and start on time and end on time if it's not a standard for me to do it for other people or to do it for myself. So if I don't have a clear standard that I honor time, other people's time, and my time, I can't require other people to honor my time. I can't make that a boundary. I can't say that I don't want people to yell at me if I yell at everybody or if I yell at me, right? So I can't say that I want people to not speak to me in a disrespectful way if I speak to people in a disrespectful way, or if I speak to myself in a disrespectful way. So sometimes, right, this is where people are like, well, no, all my boundaries are standards, right? Like, I want people to speak to me with respect, and I also speak to other people with respect. And I'll say, cool, do you speak to yourself with respect? And they're like, no, I'm not the nicest person to myself a lot, right? Okay, right? So the first thing is you got to get your standards house in order. You have to figure out how you want to show up in the world, right? Because you have to be living that before you'll really have the ability to set and enforce boundaries consistently. Because usually the boundaries that we aren't good at enforcing, right? When we're not asking other people to treat us a certain way, it's because we're not good at treating ourselves that way, or we're not good at treating other people that way. Does that make sense? Leah says, I'm really good about honoring other people's time, but I don't ask the same in return, right? Are you good at honoring your time, Leah? So let me ask you that question. Are you good at honoring your own time? So you said, I'm great at honoring other people's time. So, right? But are you great at honoring your own time? Because until you're great at honoring your own time, you're not going to do very well asking other people to honor your time. Does that make sense? It starts with us, right? It starts with us. And so I shared a story earlier this week about how, so I just want to put that out there because people get standards and boundaries confused all the time. And one of the first places to look if you have trouble, if you're like, I can't get my clients to respect my time. I can't get them to respect my policies. I can't get this organizer to like whatever. I can't get this person to whatever. It's usually because you're not doing it for yourself or for others, but usually it's that we're not doing it for ourselves, right? So Leah just said, no, I'm not great at honoring my own time. That's the first place to start. It won't matter what else I tell you, right, about honoring other people's time if you're not honoring your own time. It has to start with you. If you're not doing something for you, you're going to have a hard time asking other people to do it for you, right? But this becomes important because usually the reason that we're having such a hard time doing it is because we don't have clear rules. We don't have consistency. We don't have a clear like line in the sand about what we will do and what we won't do and like how it all plays out and all of that. So setting the guidelines and the standards, right? And setting the guidelines and the rules for how you operate in the world and how you show up in the world, and especially how you show up in your business and how you operate different components of your business makes it easier for you to then honor your own time, honor your own guidelines, honor your own limitations, and will make it easier to do that for other people. Does that make sense? So I shared a story in the group that when I first started my business, I got tons of requests for everything, right? In fact, the way I started my business, so a lot of people are like, how did you get all those clients so quickly? Because like within 2 weeks, I had 10 coaching clients, right? When I started my coaching business. And I'm not going to go into the detail of like I had built a community already and all of that, right? Just the main thing was that I put out a request to talk to 100 people. I was like, I want to talk to 100 people for 1 hour about anything at all. I want to try to solve whatever your biggest challenge is. I want to talk to 100 different people about whatever their biggest challenge is. I'll give you a free call for an hour. Hopefully we'll figure something out. If not, I'll find somebody who can help you, right? That's how I started my business. And from that, 100 people, right? I ended up getting 10 clients. But I put out this request, right, at the beginning of my business. I was like, all right, like, I'm going to do this. So I literally talked to anybody and everybody I could at the beginning of my business, right? I got so many requests for speaking engagements and I took them all. It didn't matter how small, it didn't matter what kind of group, it didn't matter. I said yes, right? My rule at the time when I started my business was just say yes. Just talk to anybody and everybody and go speak anywhere and be on every podcast that you get asked to be interviewed on and do all the summits that you're asked to participate in and do all the interviews that you're asked and go to all the networking meetings that you learn about and go to all of the events that you can attend. So how many of you are in a stage like that right now, where you're doing all of that? Like you're taking all the speaking opportunities that come your way. You're trying to talk to any and every potential client that you can. You're going to tons of networking events. You're doing all of the opportunities, right? How many of you say yes or say no? And if you're watching on replay, answer 2. So at the beginning of my business, I was, because without knowing it, I had a rule, and my rule was to say yes. And my rule made sense at that time, right? My rule made sense at that time because I didn't have clients. I didn't have the clients I needed. I didn't have the clients I wanted. I was brand new, right? I wasn't getting just, like top paid speaking engagement requests or selected to speak at the big events, right? So that rule was good when I didn't have clients, right? So at the beginning, that served me, right? But I also had this Facebook group. So in addition to doing all of that stuff, what I was doing in my Facebook group was, posting content. I was like, if you guys scroll back to when I started this group, and I started this group in 2014 into 2014, 2015. About, wow, guys, like 4 years ago, maybe 5. I gotta check that. I don't know if we're about to have our 5-year anniversary or if that's next year. But I started this group right around then. And so obviously, like, I was wanting to grow the community. I was wanting to engage the community. I was wanting to nurture, I still do. And I was wanting to nurture all the relationships in the community. And I was also wanting to grow my business. So like, I was in this group all the time. I was posting all the time. I was creating engagement. People had questions. Rita, could you answer this question about my business? Rita, could I pick your brain about this thing? Rita, could you look at this? What do you think? Like, and that was cool, right? I was answering all the questions in the Facebook group. And I also, when people got on the phone with me for a clarity call at the beginning, I extended my time. It would be a 45-minute call. How many of you have sales calls? Say yes or no in the comments if this is you. How many of you have sales calls and you run over your allocated time? Yes or no? Just be honest. It's totally cool. We've all done it. We all do it, like, at times. At the beginning, I definitely was, right? Like, it would flat out, like, it would be like a 45-minute call, but I could let it go for an hour and a half, right? Like, it didn't end on time. And I did this after I signed my first clients. I did the same with their coaching sessions. So how many of you, that's your thing, right? With like your client calls and your client sessions, how many of you find that you're running over the allocated time there? This is what started happening recently with me again since I started my new mastermind group. This is what got me to start thinking, maybe I need to revise my boundaries. Maybe I need to change my boundaries. I'm going to give you specific examples in a minute with my boundaries, right? I'm going to give you specific examples which will hopefully help you write yours in ways that you haven't thought about. But how many of you, is that a yes? Like, do you extend or go over the time that you're allocated for with clarity calls, sales calls, client calls, right? Are you answering questions that people ask you in Facebook groups or through email? How many of you are like coaching clients that aren't really your clients, coaching people through direct message? Or you have lots of people who get on a sales call with you, but then they don't hire you. How many of you have that, where you feel like, I have sales calls galore? Like, I have a lot of people who they're like, wow, what you do is great. What you do sounds great, and I want to talk to you about it, and then they don't hire you, right? How many there? How many of you are like, I know I've asked a lot of questions, but just give me your examples, right? So it's like, these are the things I see, right? People overextending their time on client calls, and people overextending their time on sales calls, and people, having appointments and then letting the appointments run over time, or having a set time on their calendar for a networking group and then staying later at the networking group, or having like a one-on-one with somebody scheduled and then that goes long, and having like all of these, like, they're coaching people in their Facebook communities, right? Or they're giving advice, or they're kind of answering and solving problems for free in the Facebook group, or people are direct messaging them or emailing them or saying, can I hop on a 5-minute call with you? I just have a quick question. And you're doing it, right? Yes? Does any of that sound like you guys at all? Because that was me. That was me at the beginning of my business, because why wouldn't it be, right? Why wouldn't it be me? I was trying to grow my business, right? But here's the thing. My business grew, right? My business grew and changed. I had clients, right? Suddenly I had many clients. Suddenly I had a full client load, right? Suddenly I was like, not only with a full client load, but now I had a lot of behind the scenes business stuff that went with it. So I had decisions I had to make. I was having invoicing problems. I had clients that, like, most of my clients would pay me. Every now and then I got like an invoice that didn't go through, and a client that kind of disappeared. I would have people joining programs and knowing all the terms and then asking for refunds and asking for things. So I had a lot of like admin-y things that were going on because my business grew. So my business had grown. And a lot of what I was doing was, so now I was getting bigger speaking requests. Now I was getting bigger speaking opportunities that required more travel and required more time, it required more planning, it required more thoughtfulness. I was getting paid for some of them, right? So a lot of stuff started changing as my business grew, but my boundaries and my guidelines and my containers didn't. And the way that I was interacting with people didn't change. So how many of you feel like, and I need to know, you guys have to answer questions. You got to answer the questions, guys. It's like, help me help you, right? How many of you have, if you have clear guidelines, clear boundaries, clear containers for each portion of your business, time, sales, speaking, events, networking, you know, admin tasks, like all of that, you have clear written out rules and guidelines, right? And I don't just mean processes, I mean rules and guidelines around what you will allow and won't allow, what you say yes to and what you say no to, right? Say, I have clear rules. Yes, I have clear rules and guidelines. If you don't, say, I don't, right? So that I know. Most people don't. Well, I kind of had this blanket rule at the beginning of, I'll talk to anybody and everybody because I need business and I need, this is what I need, right? But then as I got business and I got clients and things grew, and I never sat down and rewrote the guidelines, never update. So I did eventually, and that's where I just found myself this past month, where again, my business has grown to another level. And so now what I can be available for and how I can be available for it and the ways that I have to show up and what that means, it's different again, right? But I haven't changed the actual written rules and boundaries and containers, and therefore I've been showing up in the same way that I was, and it's no longer working with my new kind of where I am in my business. Does that make sense? And that's how, you know, at the beginning, right, the first time I needed to rewrite boundaries, the way I knew it was when my husband brought me ice cream. I shared this story, I was speaking today, I shared this story there. My husband brought me ice cream because he knows I love ice cream. So he brought it to me just to be nice. He was like, here's some ice cream. And I started crying and I yelled at him. I was like, you know, I don't like mint chocolate chip, blah, blah. He did not know that I did not like mint chocolate chip because I never told him. I just told him I loved all ice cream. But that wasn't the point. The point was the reason I was crying and the reason that I was upset was because I was overworked and I was overwhelmed and I was resentful and I wasn't like, I was lacking energy and nothing felt like it was really working in my business. And I felt like I was working all the time, even though I had clients, even I didn't have the type of clients and the type of packages I wanted. I wasn't getting new clients. I wasn't, right? So I was not getting what I wanted in my business, but I was working all the time because I was doing all these things. I was still talking to everybody. I was still answering all the questions in my Facebook group. I was still hopping on free calls with people. I was still saying yes to every interview and every speaking engagement and every whatever, on top of the clients I had, on top of everything that came with it, on top. So guess what the first thing to go was, right? My sanity, right? Now, my physical well-being. I wasn't sleeping well or enough hours. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't working out. Definitely wasn't getting exercise. I wasn't seeing my friends. I wasn't, because I felt like I don't know when I'm going to do it. I don't know when I can go do all this stuff because every minute of the day is full. And that was because in my mind it was like, but every minute is really taken up by my business, right? Because it had clients or it had business stuff. The problem was half the business stuff I was doing, I shouldn't be doing anymore. And I'm not just talking about delegating. I'm talking about just new rules, new standards, new ways of operating a business, right? So, and we all do this because we're coming from a good place, right? We all want to help a lot of people do a lot of things. Well, how many of you feel like you could benefit from, because you guys have gotten quiet, you haven't been answering any of my questions, right? Oh, my phone keeps ringing from this telemarketer. Man, I tell you what, they are relentless. And I don't know if it's the same one, but it's just like, oh. How many of you could benefit from boundaries? And where? Where do you think you could use boundaries? Everywhere? Do you think you could use boundaries around how you spend your time? Do you think you could use boundaries around your sales process? Do you think you could use boundaries around pricing? Do you think you could use boundaries around business building activities? Do you think you could use boundaries around decision making? Like what areas? Let me know. Give me some feedback. What areas could you benefit from boundaries? So like I shared a story yesterday about my client. And my client, so we're going to start here with sales process, right? Because this is where I've recently updated my boundaries. And this is also where I see most people have to update their boundaries. So let's start there. How many of you, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. So I need you to answer yes or no, okay? How many of you have very clear guidelines, rules, and limitations, what you will and won't do, what you say yes to or no to, and how things operate for every different stage of your sales cycle? So from building awareness to nurturing relationships to having sales calls to working with clients. How many of you have very clear rules and guidelines at every single stage? Yes or no? Just type in yes or type in no. I'm going to take a sip of my soda while you type that in. I'm going to pause for you to do that. Yes or no? Yes or no, right? Should I sit in uncomfortable silence? Should I just sit in uncomfortable silence waiting for you? Leah says no. No, she doesn't. Okay, good. Thank you, Leah. Thank you for answering. Gina says no. Okay, all right. So we're going to start here. I'm going to share this story of my client, and it's also something I recently did, and it's going to serve as a first example of boundary setting, of setting guidelines. So this client contacted me because she was like, Rita, oh my gosh, I'm not having trouble getting sales calls. Like, I'm getting a ton of sales calls, but people aren't hiring me. So I don't know if any of you can relate to that. She was like, I'm getting a lot of interest. I'm getting a lot of sales calls. People aren't hiring me. Rita, I'm getting requests to speak a lot. And I go, and people are getting on the phone with me after the speaking, and they're not hiring me. And Rita, oh my gosh, like all this stuff, like all of these opportunities that were coming her way, but people weren't hiring her. These opportunities and this interest wasn't converting into sales. It wasn't converting into clients. So I don't know how many of you can relate to that. Right? But we dug into it, and this was another case of she had not updated her sales process since she had started her business. So she had started her business about 8 months before she started working with me. And sorry, I keep feeling like I'm gonna sneeze. And her business had changed drastically because she did what I did at the beginning, extreme visibility, right? So her business had grown really, really quickly. And I said, okay, well, you know what, I'm gonna sneeze, I can feel it. Oh my goodness, sorry. I don't think I've ever sneezed on a Facebook Live before. I asked her what problems, like what her sales process was and what her boundaries and guidelines were, and she was like, look, I haven't really implemented any, right? I started my business, and she listed all the same things that I had been doing. She's like, anybody that asks a question, I answer it. I answer it in email, I answer it in my Facebook group. Anybody, I speak to anybody. I give my scheduling link to anybody. I just want them to directly get on the phone with me. I accept every speaking engagement. I accept every show that I get asked to. I accept every networking group, every one-to-one, every call, I say yes. I get private messages on Facebook, and I respond to them, and I answer questions, and I even provide some coaching on one-off little topics, and then I get on the sales calls, and I let them run long, and I have client calls, and I let those run long, and look, I'm posting content, and I'm doing newsletters, and I'm doing Facebook Lives, and I'm meeting I go to so many coffees, Rita. I go to so many coffees, right? How many of you go to so many coffees? Who are my coffee meters here? Who go out and meet people in person all the time? Who goes out and meets people in person all the time? Like, you feel like you're always having one-to-ones or networking meetings or something with people, right? Because I will tell you what, the coffee meeting is the killer of most businesses. Everybody's like, I'm going out to have coffee with people to build my business. And I'm like, no, you're killing your business. You're killing your business by meeting all of these people in person for all of these freaking coffees and conversations all the time. Stop doing the in-person one-to-ones. BNI would kill me for that. Stop doing the in-person one-to-ones, right? But so she was doing it all, right? She was doing all of this stuff. And I said, okay, I need you to really detail this out for me. I need you to detail it out for like 2 weeks. And so what I found out was that she had no guidelines in the sales process. So what do I mean? This is now where I'm going to give you an example. What do I mean? Guidelines in the sales process, containers, clear rules, right? This is what I meant. At the beginning of her business, She needed to be everywhere talking to everybody. But as her business grew and had clients, like she just could not serve her clients well and still be everywhere, right? So she needed to make a very clear process about where she would be and how she would be spending her time in a variety of ways. So here's the way it looks like on a sales guideline spree, right? And I'm going to use mine. I'm not going to use hers. I'm going to use mine as an example because I was in the same place as her. So when I started my business, I was talking to everybody, going everywhere, doing one-to-ones, meeting people for freaking coffee, drink so much coffee. I was doing everything, right? As my business grew, like I said, I ended up yelling at my husband, right? I was like, something needs to change. So I sat down and I was like, what are my containers, right? So that's the first place to start with your sales process. You have a container of how you build awareness. Okay, so that's one container everybody has. How do I get people aware that my business exists? Right? Then you have a container around how do I nurture the relationships of the people that I am making aware of me, right? Then you have a container for sales conversations and sales calls, right? And then you have conversations or a container for like in-person get to know you meetings, networking stuff, right? Then you have a container for actually working with clients. You need very clear rules. So mine weren't any. Here's how that looked. Here's how it looks now. Here are the rules and the guidelines that I just put in place because either I either had these in place and I was flexing them, or I never put them in place. Either way, they're in place now and they're not flexy, okay? Because they can't be. So I'm going to tell you what mine are, and that will be a good example of like what yours are. So again, if you're new and just starting your business, these are not your guidelines and your boundaries, right? Yours should be like mine was. This is only after you've reached that next level, you have to kind of revise, right? So what do I mean? So when I started, I answered any and every question I could of people in the Facebook group about their business, about individual situations, right? A new guideline is I'm no longer available to do that. Number one, I think it does a disservice to people because I need more information, right? If you ask me a question in Facebook, in this Facebook group and say, hey, Rita, let me ask you this question. Do you think that this is the right networking event for me? Or, hey, Rita, what do you think of this logo? Or, and I get these questions, right? You guys see them in the group all the time. Hey, Rita, like this happened to me. What do you think? What do you think I should say back to her? Hey, Rita, do you think that I should take this opportunity? Hey, Rita, so these are individual questions, right, that I'm being asked in the Facebook group. Well, when I was new and starting my business, I wanted to answer everybody's questions about everything, right? Because I was trying to get awareness and build trust and build all of that. I can't be in the Facebook group all the time anymore. And I also I know now that does a disservice to people because I don't have all the information I need to give a really good answer. So for example, a guideline, right, and I'm gonna write it down here with you. I wrote them down, I don't have it here with me, but a guideline, right, that I created was no individual questions answered in the Facebook group. No individual questions answered in the Facebook group, right? I will, if there's like a general question around, hey, what is networking? I'll answer that, right? Or like something like that. Or on a training like this or Facebook Live, right? Maybe I'll answer it. But if it's really individual or specific, I'm no longer going to answer questions like that in the Facebook group. What will I do? I will say, hey, you know what? That's like really individual. I need a lot more information than that. So let's have a call. I'm more than happy to dig into this a little bit with you on a call. I'd like a 20-minute call. Here's a link, schedule a call if you want to talk about it. Do you guys see how I just created a boundary and a guideline? Just that one thing is a boundary and a guideline. Now I don't have to go, oh, do I answer this question? Do I not answer this question? Do I ask her to get on the phone with me? Do I not ask her to get on the phone with me? Should I email her? Should I not? Should I like whatever? Like, should I not? No, it's like a very clear guideline. No individual specific questions put in the Facebook group will I answer in the Facebook group. My rule is, right, I will say, I'm more than happy to talk to you about that if you click here and schedule a call. Right, if you click here and schedule a call. So that's one guideline in my sales process. In my Facebook container, right, no individual questions, right? You guys see? But I want to know that you see that I just created a guideline that became a boundary, right? That makes it easy for me to know what to do or what not to do, right? I have now a very quick and easy way of when I see individual questions, right, giving a response to say, get on the phone with me. And some people don't. right? And here's my thought about that, right? I'm at a stage of my business. I wish I could just answer everybody's questions everywhere. But the truth is I don't have enough information to do that usually about individual questions, right? Do you guys see that in a real meaningful way? And so not only am I doing a disservice, but like, I can't do that anymore. I'm at a level in my business where now I need people to at least be invested in me enough to get on a 20-minute call with me. And if people aren't invested enough to get on the phone with me to talk about their individual challenge, then I just can't give that attention right now, right, to them in that way. Does that make, when I have clients and I have other people that are willing to meet me there, does that make sense? Are you guys following along with that? Do you see how that in one of my sales containers of the Facebook group, do you guys see what I did? Yes, no, hello? Bueller. I never know if Facebook froze up, if you guys are just being quiet. Okay, so what's another one? What's another guideline in my sales process, right? Well, one is around the sales call, the clarity call, right? I have a very clear rule and guideline for my clarity call. No coaching. No coaching on the clarity call. It's not a free coaching call. It's a clarity call, right? When you get on what people would call sales call or discovery call or whatever, right? The reason that I call it a clarity call is because we're just trying to get clear on if I'm the right fit for you, if your goals and your challenges and the support you want match what I help people do, right? And if our personalities match, if we're a good fit, that's all. We're just trying to get clear on that. I'm not available to try to prove my value or worth on a sales call, right? I'm not available for that, right? Like I'm not going to do that. I will very clearly help you get to that clarity on if I'm a good fit for you or not, right? So a guideline is no coaching on my sales calls, no coaching on my clarity calls, right? So now I've got the Facebook group guideline, right, that I told you guys about. So Gina's like, yes, good stuff. Everything makes sense. So now, right, like I've got my Facebook group guideline that makes it super easy. And here's the other thing I'm going to say, because it sounds kind of like no soup for you guys, right? No, like I hope you guys see, and you guys can tell me if you feel like I don't do this enough. I really always want you. I pour so much value into this Facebook group, right? I think I pour an extreme amount of value into this Facebook group, right? Or through my newsletters, or there is a lot of free information that I put out there for you guys. Would you guys agree with that? Yes or no? Like, I'm curious. Like, I think there is. Would you guys agree that there is a ton of free information for your business in this group? I do the Facebook Lives, I do trainings, I do challenges. In fact, another challenge is coming up. I do Ask Me Anything sessions. I do all my posts, right? I have 2 newsletters that go out a week. I have my YouTube page, right? Like full of free information. I have a lot of free resources. I do a lot of giveaways. I do a lot, like I would say, and you guys watching on replay and here live can tell me if you agree, right? I give tons of free value in this group. So I don't feel like I'm neglecting the group when I won't answer your individual questions specifically in a comment in the group or on direct message if you Facebook message me, right? The answer that gets back to you is, I would love to talk to you about that. Please schedule a call. And I feel okay doing that because I'm putting enough content and value and time and attention into this group. So if somebody's like, well, Rita, I don't really want to get on the phone with you for 20 minutes about that. Okay, well, cool. There's a lot of free information in this group. You can keyword search it. You can go subscribe to my newsletter list. You can go to my YouTube page and see if I've talked about it before, right? So my rule is, okay, cool. I put a lot of free content in my Facebook group. If somebody wants to get specific with me about their individual situation, they have to get on the phone with me. They have to get on the phone with me, right? So then once I'm on the phone, my guideline is I don't coach people on the phone. That's not what it's about. And I hold firm to that. There's no coaching. If they're like, hey, Rita, could you just tell me how to? No, I'm sorry, I can't, right? So how many people have trouble with that, with their sales calls? Yes or no? Like, how many people, right, struggle with, and this isn't for product-based people, right, as much as service-based people, but like you get on the call and suddenly you're actually solving the client's problems on your sales call. You're giving advice. You're giving strategy. You're giving whatever. You're like what I call tap dancing, right, to show that you know what you're doing, but you're giving the information. You're giving the answers. You're giving the coaching. You're treating them like a client, right? So a lot of people come to me and say they're doing that. And then I had somebody say, oh, somebody like won a free a free coaching call with me. And I said, cool, that's cool. I do free coaching calls. And she said, so they did the free coaching call with me, and I told you, the telemarketer, like it really is a telemarketer. I pick it up, it's always a robo recording. She's like, so they want a free coaching call with me. And then that ended, but they keep asking questions in Facebook Messenger and I keep answering. And I was like, well, she's like, but I don't understand. Like, I told her at the end of the free coaching call how she could coach with me, right? That I have an intensive and that I have all of this stuff. And my answer was like, why would she? When you're answering all of her questions for free through email and through Facebook Messenger. Like, you haven't made it clear to her when she needs to move to the next container. So if you think of your sales process as a container, right? Think about when you move. So when does somebody move from my Facebook group to getting on the phone with me? I have to be clear in it so they're clear in it, right? When does somebody move from a sales call into getting coaching from me? There has to be a very clear rule and guideline so they will also know it. If I'm not making clear rules and guidelines and I'm flexing and I'm coaching you sometimes when you're not my client and I'm not coaching you other times, or I'm not coaching you only in the places I said I would, or I'm not, like, you're not going to know when you really need to move to the next stage with me. Does that make sense? Are you guys getting that? Right? So like in the Facebook group, no individual questions are answered, right? On my clarity calls, there's no coaching, right? I don't coach people unless you're a paid and signed client. And here's why. It's not like a manipulative sales thing, right? It's not like, no, I'm not going to give you value until you pay me. It has nothing to do with that. I have people who pay me to give them coaching. And it's very disrespectful to the people that trust me and are paying me to give them that value, to give it for free to other people who just aren't paying, right? Like, that's why I value my clients. And I'm a person of integrity, right? I value my clients. I value them a lot. They are the most important thing in my business, right? Therefore, how disrespectful would it be for me to give some people for free what people are paying me for? So that makes a very clear boundary guideline in my head. My clients of my mastermind or my group or private, right, or a program or anything like that, they get, right, coaching. Nobody else does. You have to be a paid client, right? So there's the guideline there, right? Then when it comes to actually serving my clients, right, now this is where I have to get better. I've now set a guideline because I was flexing it a lot, so I can't fault my clients for not sticking to it because I wasn't sticking to it. But the guideline around serving my clients is when I'm available to them, right? There's a client coaching portal that I have now. They have unlimited access to me. Private clients have unlimited access to me. But I tell them, look, I check your coaching portal in the morning. I check your coaching portal at night. And I do that 7 days a week. But I check your coaching portal in the morning. I check your coaching portal at night. I'm not available to answer your questions between these times because I'm on the phone with clients. I'm serving clients. I'm doing other things, right? Also, I tell them if there's a Facebook group, like my mastermind group has a Facebook group where they all talk. I'm like, but that's not where we talk, right? That's for you guys to talk. If you want to talk to me about something specifically, you have to go to your coaching portal. I don't know how many of you have emailed me, right? But if you've emailed me, you might have gotten a bounce back. And the bounce back is it says like, hi, like it says a lot of fun stuff, but it's like, look, basically I don't check this email all day, every day. Sometimes it can take me a day to check this email. So if it's urgent, if it's important, call me or email my assistant. And if it's not, cool, like I'll get back to you when I can. If you're a client, and it's real big, if you're one of my clients and you emailed me, your email will not be returned. Please go to your coaching portal and message me, right? And I'll tell you, that's the hardest one to enforce. When I get an email from a client who's just emailing me instead of going to their coaching portal, I want with all of my fiber and being to write them back. But I'm like, no, I have this for a reason because I don't want to check my email every day, all day, right? My assistant checks it for me for a few things, but I don't want to check it all day, every day. And so, and if my clients are messaging me there, I would feel like I need to because they get access to me, right? So instead, like I say, I don't answer them. And when I don't answer them, they go, oh yeah, Rita said only do it in Basecamp, so I need to go over to Basecamp and do it. Does that make sense? So like you can set clear guidelines around communications with people in all kinds of ways, your interactions with them, right? So I set very clear guidelines. I found that, so Basecamp is the coaching portal that I use with clients. And I found that I was doing this thing that a lot of people do. I was checking it from my phone all the time. I have an app for it. So when I'd see notifications pop up, so here I was telling my clients, I only check it in the morning and I only check it in the evening and I'll respond to you then. I also need 48-hour turnaround time for things you really need me to review and give you edits on, because I do a lot for my private clients. Like I help them write content. I help them, you know, edit their newsletters. I help them like create their sales pages, and I help them do all of this stuff, right? And I'm like, but I need time to review that and get back to you. But what I was doing, right, was this little app, and you can see it right here because I have resisted it today. You see that little yellow app, right? Like Basecamp, right? Like because of that, I'm removing it from my phone. I put it back on here today to show you guys for this video, right? But because of that, I'm removing it from my phone so that I won't go outside my guidelines, right? So get clear guidelines around your interactions in different phases of your business, right? When it comes to networking, Leah, I think you said you were the coffee girl and the one-on-one girl, right? At the beginning of my business, I was available to go out for coffee because I didn't have a lot of clients and I had a lot of free space in my day, right? But as my business grew, as I started getting clients, as I started getting speaking, as I started getting, my time changed, right? So my guidelines had to change. Well, I love meeting people and I love coffee. So I could meet people and drink coffee all day long every day if people let me, right? I would drink coffee and meet people all day long every day if people would let me. It's not a smart CEO business decision, right? For my business right now. It's not where my business is at. So what do? I've now set up something that if you want to meet with me for the first time, if like I'm out at a networking event and you're like, hey Rita, I'd love to learn more. I think we have a lot of potential to collaborate. I'd love to get together for coffee with you. My response is, thanks so much. My schedule doesn't accommodate in-person coffee meetings or in-person one-on-ones, but I would love to have a 10-minute Zoom chat with you, a 10 or 15-minute video chat with you, right? And I have a link. It's called like my virtual coffee link. And we can have a virtual coffee, right, for about 15 minutes and we can talk and learn about each other more, right? So when I don't know somebody and I don't really know why they're wanting to get to know me better and I'm not really sure about them and I'm not sure how we could collaborate, I'm not sure about the purpose of the meeting specifically, and knowing that it's a collaborative, true partnership, or knowing, you know, when it's just to get to know somebody, I don't do that in person anymore. My guideline is the first meeting is virtual. It's a 10 to 15 minute Zoom chat for us to learn about each other. And then based on what we learn about each other, if there's potential for collaboration, if there's potential for, and I feel like, okay, cool, we should meet in person, then we'll meet in person, right? But what I was doing was a lot of these first time meetings in person all the time, and I was spending an hour and a half, like it's very hard to end a meeting in person, right? Very hard, like on time, to be like, I'm sorry, our 30 minutes is up, like I gotta go, right? Like, no, of course, and I mean, all the distractions and getting your coffee and getting your food and all of this, right? And other people walking in, and it's very hard to honor that time. So of course, and then you have to drive there and you have to drive back, right? Are you guys agreeing with this or not? Like in-person networking, one-on-one kind of meetings take up a huge portion of your day that when you're not at the revenue that you want to be at, you shouldn't be doing that, right? You should be doing business building, revenue generating activities. And while networking in person with potential referral partners there are more efficient, effective ways at that stage of your business, right? To either do it or to do something else. Like I would rather be networking with my ideal clients. If I'm still a dating coach, I would rather be networking with singles who might need a dating coach than people who might refer singles to me, right? What's a better use of my time? Walking into a room or a meeting with a single person or a person that might refer a single person to me, right? You guys see what I'm saying here? Yes? No? So like set guidelines around all of these things, right? Around your time. Set guidelines for when your client calls are. I work with clients, in the sales process, if I sign on a client that I know is outside of my normal guidelines, then I choose to do that, right? I choose to do that. I can flex when I want to, but it's a conscious decision, right? But I work with clients between 1 and 5. Right? That's when I schedule calls, Monday through Thursday, 1 to 5. I don't schedule client calls on a Friday. That's a guideline. So if somebody says, hey, can I shift my call from Tuesday to Friday? My answer is no, I'm sorry, Friday's not available for client calls, right? If somebody's like, hey, could I schedule with you in the morning? I'm sorry, no, like the morning's not available for client calls. We can find another afternoon time. So when I set clear guidelines around my interactions and my time, then I'm able to hold firm to them and enforce them. And when I know them ahead of time, I can communicate those expectations ahead of time. So if somebody's on the phone with me for a sales call and I say, oh, I'm sorry, no, like I know you want to meet every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I don't meet with clients on Saturday, right? Then maybe this isn't a good fit and maybe you need to find a coach that does work on Saturdays, right? And so they can, and they go, because what would happen if I don't work on Saturdays and I take the client who wants to meet on Saturdays? Eventually I'm going to feel resentful about that and I'm not doing them as good service and I'm not doing me. So why would I do it? Well, scarcity. I need the money, I need the client. What if that? So that's just a scarcity-based decision, right? When you have a rule, you have a guideline, you have a boundary, and then it's like it's a fear-based decision to compromise that, right? Because you're scared of losing money or you're scared of losing a client or you're scared of losing an opportunity. What you're saying is, I don't believe something else is going to come along. I don't believe that something better is going to come along or that somebody's going to fit, right? So you hold on. So any decision, I think we know, right? Any decision that we make from a scarcity-based mindset, it's never a good decision for our business, right? But when you have these clear guidelines, like I only go to these 2 networking groups. That's it. I only go to events and I only do it on these days. So if they don't have an event on that day, like I don't go, right? Like, so how many of you are starting to come up with ideas for like what you could do, what kinds of guidelines and what kinds of boundaries you could do, right? Another thing is your priorities and your focus and your attention, right? When there's so many different ways to do so many different things, right? In so many different places, you need to get super clear about your priority, and that becomes a boundary, right? So if you're trying to get private coaching clients, that is it. That's your sole focus, right? That's the only thing you go all in on. You don't also think about a workshop and also think about a group coaching program and also think, you create a priority, one priority. That's the definition of priority, right? The definition of priority is there can be only one, right? And so you need to create this clear definition of priority. What is your priority? When you know what your priority is, it's very easy to evaluate everything else, right? So if you're like, okay, my priority is private coaching, and that's the only thing I'm focused on. The only thing I'm focused on is private coaching, right? I'm all in on getting 7 private clients. Okay, cool. Now let's say that you're invited, right? And then, so that's one. What is your offering? You need to have a priority around what is your priority offering? What is the one offering you are all in on? And you can be on different offerings at a given time, but like for this month or for this quarter, what is the offering that you're all in on? Share it with me. Share it in the comments, right? Then you need to have, I talked about the awareness container, the way that people become aware of you. You need to go all in on one way that people become aware of you. Do they become aware of you through in-person networking? Do they become aware of you through speaking? Do they become aware of you through, I don't know, a column that you write? What's the main priority way? For me, it's speaking. That's the main way people become aware of me, right? So I'm all in on speaking. And then you have the nurture container, right? So you have the offering container, like what's my main offer? Pick one. You have what's my awareness container? What's the way people become aware that I exist? Pick one. And then how do I nurture the relationships with the people that I meet? Is it my newsletter? Is it a Facebook group? Is it a LinkedIn group? Is it a meetup group? Like, where am I like putting them? What container am I putting them in order to continue to nurture that relationship? Pick only one, right? For me, it's my Facebook group. That's where they go, right? And then you have these other containers we're talking about. So I have those guidelines I shared with you before about what I do or don't do in my Facebook group. And then what I do or don't do on a sales call. And then what I do or don't do with a client, including honoring my client time and my client session time and scheduling times and all of that, right? And then what do I do or not do with email? So there are very clear rules about what time of day I check my email, how long it takes me to return an email. And I communicate it and I don't violate it, right? Like I honor it, and I honor it by removing things that could tempt me away from it and really cultivating a faith-based mindset. But if you have these things in place, can you see how easy it is to make decisions about things in your business? Because if your number one way of building awareness in you is speaking, and someone's like, hey, do you want to like do this online summit, right? It could be a great way to build your list. Your answer is very easy. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking right now. My priority to build awareness is speaking. And so that's going to be a no to the summit for right now. And I'm going to spend that extra time trying to get speaking engagements, right? If you know that your nurture is a Facebook, right? You can put all your time and energy and attention to Facebook. It doesn't mean you're not going to have an email list or whatever, but you repurpose. So my only content that I create is here for the Facebook group. If you notice and get my newsletters, it's repurposed content. I write a post a day every day here for a week, and then 2 of those posts are linked together, becomes my newsletter, right? So I know where to put my time and attention for nurturing relationships. I know what I'm selling, and that's where my time and attention is, that one thing. And that helps me say yes or no to ideas that pop into my head. Should I follow down that rabbit hole? Should I fall down that rabbit hole or not, right? And then knowing how to interact in my Facebook group, what I'm available for, not available for, right? It helps move people through containers, and that helps you get clients easier. Do you guys see this? Like, I hope you see this, right? If I'm sometimes answering people's individual questions in the Facebook group, right? If I'm flexing on that, and I'm like, no, I don't want to answer individual questions in the Facebook group. But then I flex on it and I start answering individual questions in a Facebook group. Or if my guideline is, no, if you email me and ask me a question, I'm like, I got an email today from a woman. I don't know who she is. I got an email from her saying, Britta, I would love just a 15-minute talk for you to give me feedback on my offering. I would love it if you could just mentor me, right? Just mentor me and tell me, like, I love what you do. I'm going to be a coach. Here's my offering. What do you think? Could you email me back and let me know what you think? Or if I flexed on my boundary is, no, you have to at least get on a call with me, right? And I'm still not going to coach you on the call. We're just going to see if we're a fit to work together for me to help you with that, right? But if I was flexing on that, if I emailed her back and said, you know, I looked at your offer and blah, right, then I'm setting up a standard where people don't know when they have to move from one container to the other, so they won't. If I'm answering individual questions in my Facebook group all the time, they won't know when to get on the phone with me, right? Or they won't feel like they have to, right? Because maybe I'll answer their individual question in the group. If I'm coaching people on the phone or through direct message or through whatever, they're not going to feel like they have to hire me. Why should they? I'm not setting a clear understanding of when that has to take place, when they have to make a decision by. If I give them free coaching because they win something, I often give away free coaching, they have to know very clearly when that ends, right? So that they know when they have to, and what the next step is, so they know what they have to move into, like, right? Like, I have guidelines for every comment every reply that I get from a newsletter, I will respond to. I think it's so important, right? I think it's so important. So my rule is every time somebody replies to one of my newsletters, I will respond, right? Every time somebody comments on an Instagram post, it gets a response. Every time somebody comments on one of my Facebook posts, it gets a response, right? Like, those are rules around what I will do, right? So it makes it very clear where to spend my time, my attention, what I say yes to, what I say no to. It makes it easier to honor, because it's all written down. It's all a clear guideline. It's all clear, and I can communicate it all super clearly. And so the reason why, right, we don't do this is we have a scarcity-based mindset. We're worried that if we do this, we're going to lose potential opportunities and lose potential business. And so to get out of this, to be able to start finding your guidelines and your containers, and I hope this was helpful, right? I hope this was helpful. Like, think about a time you want to be done with work. Think about a time you want to start work. When do you want your morning routine? Like, when do you want to work with clients? Let's start setting that, and let's start honoring that, right? And it becomes easier with all of this stuff. But like, what makes it easier is cultivate the mindset of abundance, right? Cultivate a mindset of abundance. Visualize the life you want to be living. Get really clear about that. Do I want to be working on weekends? What do I want to be doing on weekends? Am I working weeknights? Am I not? Like, and I'm not saying you won't deep dive out of that sometimes, but I'm saying as a whole, understand, like, what's the life you want to be living, right? What do you need more of and less of? If you feel like I need less computer, I need less computer, then what guidelines do we need to put in place that will make less computer happen? If you're like, I need less like email, what guidelines can we put in place that will make less email happen? If you're like, I need more outdoor time, what guidelines and boundaries can we put in place? So ask what you need more of or what you need less of, right? And then ask yourself, like, what are my priorities, the things I went over, each of those containers? What's your one thing for each of those things? And then what has to be true for all of that to come together, right? What has to be true for all of that to come together? And then what resources and support do you need to make that happen? What do you need to communicate to make that happen, right? So I'm curious, did you guys find this helpful? Did this make you think of anything that you've never thought of before? You guys got super quiet on this one. A lot of people laughed. I don't know if it's because they don't like boundaries or they don't want to hear me talk about them, or I don't know, right? But guys, this is the key to everything, because this is the key to like not just your health and your sanity, and it is, because remember, if your business does not support the life you want to live, it will not sustain. A lot of people just build a business and then shove their life in around the business. We need to make sure that we're building a business that supports the life you want to live, meaning you have to first get clear about the life you want to live. What does that look like, and what are you available for and not available for, and what are you around and not around, and what are you doing and not doing, and all of that. Then we can create the business to support it, and we create the business to support it through these guidelines, right? Through these like rules, guidelines, and boundaries. And we do it based on the stage of business you're in, your schedule, and your time, but they're not static, right? They flex. As your business grows, these have to be reevaluated. They have to be reevaluated and they have to change. And if you don't have any of these in place, this is where to start, right? This is where you need to really, really start. Not only, like I said, for your sanity and your well-being and to make sure you're not going crazy, right? And that you're like getting sleep and not yelling at your husband for bringing you ice cream, right? But you have to do it because it also helps other people understand how to move through your business, right? It helps people very clearly know when they need to do what in your business, and people want to. They want to know what to do and when to do what and how to do it and when's the right time for this and how do they get this access and they want clear guidelines, clear rules, clear expectations, right? And when I talked about boundaries and standards at the beginning of this, right? When I talked about boundaries and standards at the beginning of this, here's the thing. People who like you and respect you, who genuinely like you and respect you, will always want to honor your boundaries. The only people that will get really angry about you setting a boundary and enforcing it are people who do not respect you and who do not like you, right? People who like you and respect you want to honor your boundaries. People who don't are going to be the ones that get angry. So it's a great way too to call in the right people to work with. If I say in my Facebook group, oh, I'm so sorry, Jane Smith. I'm so sorry, Jane Smith. This is a great question, but it's one that I can't answer for you here in my Facebook group. In fact, I don't really answer individual questions in my Facebook group because I feel like I need a lot more information to be able to really give you a solid answer. So I'm more than happy to talk to you about this if you schedule a call. You can click here on my Clarity Call link and you can schedule a call with me. And if Jane Smith is like, I can't believe it, you just want sales, you just want people, you don't really want to give value, that's a person that did not respect me. That's a person who didn't like me. That's a person who only was focused on herself. And I would rather Jane Smith leave the community, right? Other people would be like, cool, Rita, yeah, I'll totally click and schedule a call, right? Like, see what I'm saying? So it's a great way to call in the right people when you're flexing your boundaries too much, and then you wonder, why does it feel like I never have the right people? Why am I only attracting clients who don't respect my time? Or why am I always getting people asking for free advice and asking for free coaching? And why? Because you haven't called it in by doing it yourself and making it all clear, right? So Maria says, yes, I'm still working on sticking with one thing, but this is kicking my butt to do that. I tell you what, girl, it's everything, right? Guys, if you struggle with this, right? If this is something you struggle with, I have two options for you because this is huge and it's super individual. And like I said, I just rewrote a page of guidelines, the work that I want my assistant to do, There are clear guidelines around that, what I will and won't do, what I need to outsource, what happens in case this happens, like all of these boundaries and guidelines, right? I just created them for me. And now I have other people saying, I want you to help me create them, right? So if this is something you struggle with, because this is key, like how do I get my schedule under control? How do I communicate these boundaries? How do I not feel scarce while I'm doing it? How do I focus on one thing and do it well? How do I get results? All of this. I may have one client spot left for the year. I say may because I spoke this morning and a woman came up to me and expressed interest in taking that final client spot. And we have a call that we need to schedule. I may have one client spot available. I don't know. It depends on who hires me when. But I have 5 spots available for next year, right? And if you want to get rates, my rates this year for coaching next year, you can do that by putting down a small non-refundable deposit and securing me, right, for one of those spots. So either way, you can take this last coaching spot and we can get going on this now, and we can get your strategy together and your guidelines and your containers and your rules, and like you can get all that support you need now so that you're rocking and rolling before the holidays get here and before the new year gets here. Or we can just make sure you have that support in place for the new year so you can kind of relax and enjoy the holidays a little bit, right? Either way, you kind of win. And so if this is something you struggle with, let me know. If you're not sure that private coaching is the way for you right now, still schedule a clarity call with me, because I have an intensive that I do with people, a 90-minute intensive that I do. I don't always have spots open for that, but I might have some spots open in November for a 90-minute intensive where we could at least dig into one area and set some guidelines and set some boundaries and set some standards and set some strategy and all of that, right? So I will put the link for a clarity call here in the comments. Really, if this is even just a thought, like I'm so serious when I say no pressure, it's just a conversation to see, right? As you know, as you learned from today, I don't coach on clarity calls. It's just a conversation to see if we are a good fit. If we are a good fit, if I have resources that can help you, if private coaching is the right help for you, if I think one of my group programs might be, if I don't think you need me at all and I think you need somebody else, like if I think an intensive would be sufficient for you, like that's the way we get clear about what you need to move to the next level in your business. That's all a clarity call is. Let's get clear on what the right next step is for you in your business. And then you can decide whether you want to take it or not, right? So if you want to have that call, when I put my link in here, click and schedule. You might not see availability though, because I haven't gotten my calendar updated yet. So if you click on the link and you don't see availability, you can send me a message through Facebook. You can send me a message through Facebook about this, and I will find a time, right? So just comment below. Actually, just comment below and say, hey, Rita, I'm interested in a clarity call, and I'll get with you and I'll schedule that. Yeah, and then we'll just talk about it. So I'd love to know your favorite takeaway. I'd love to know what you're walking away with from this. Did you find this valuable? If you're watching on replay, did you? I thought this was so important that I went a little long, because this is just a topic that is like so foundational and crucial for success that I really want people to understand it, because it's something people struggle with. And I don't think they need to struggle with it, but I understand it, right? And it will, I want you to just know and feel good. I give you permission to like give yourself grace, because it comes up at each new stage of growth in your business. You have to refine your trust me, I still wish that I was available to talk to every person I speak with. And when I go speak to a group of 40, I wish I could offer all 40 in the room the chance to get on the call with me for free. I can't talk to 40 people. I speak so many times a month, I can't do that, right? So there's a guideline. There's a, if you want to speak with me, click here and fill out this form, and you have to answer these questions certain ways. And then like, right, I wish it wasn't that way. But as a business owner, you have to make sure that the boundaries and standards in your business match with where you are in your business. So anyway, that's all, guys. Have a good one. Have a good night. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.